I've always been an artist since I can remember. I remember I used to try drawing as a child. Um, I have a big brother who's a really good artist. He just sketches from his head and he sketches really good things. And always wanted to do things like him. And my dad, as I've told you, he's the ultimate artist. He can draw, he can paint, he can imitate, he can do a lot of good things. And all my other siblings are also artists. Well, my name is Sarah Dominique, and I come from Congo, and I have lived in Denmark for the past 9 years here in Aalborg. I used to live in a little city outside of Aalborg in the south called Støvring. That's where I landed when I came here. And then I moved here 4 years after living there. And I am 30 years old, 31. I just turned 31 last month. And yeah, I don't know. Oh, thank you.
You said that you're from Congo.
Yes.
Which part of Congo? You know, there's a two Congos.
Oh, yeah.
Which one where?
I'm from the big Congo, DRC.
The Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, and we lived in Goma, which is the east part.
East.
Yeah.
Which is the site where now I've got a kind of conflict.
Yes,
right?
yes, been going on for forever now.
I hope this will one day be over. So
That's the
we can
prayer.
have a beautiful country.
Yeah.
I've never been to Congo, but I heard it's a beautiful country.
Yeah,
And
it's
very
gorgeous.
big.
Yeah. Only I haven't been there since I was 10. So I remember everything it taught me, and I remember the black soil, because where I come from, the soil is black, and I have not seen black soil before again. I mean, I haven't seen it since then. But I left when I was 10, and I remember more tragic things than the good things. Yeah, but I also love the fact that I'm from Congo because it made me me. I feel like a lot of things that I love about being African and just being a black person is because I was in Congo. I feel like nothing can beat that for me. I lived in Kenya as well, and I'm not saying Kenya is not an African country, but my roots from Congo made me navigate living in Kenya. I think if I had come from Kenya to live in Congo, I would have had a harder time than coming from Congo living in Kenya. So I love it, but then it's like a love-hate relationship. Yeah.
You said that some bad thing that you recall from Congo.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Yes, I'd love to hear exactly what the bad thing that you recall more in Congo than the good.
Okay. Well, I'm born in '89, so that's a long time ago, and the development of the place was not the best, or maybe it's just my parents who weren't rich. But there's that part of the development way back when I was a kid, and also the wars. I experienced around 4 wars when I was a child, and there was a major one that dispersed us and made us flee to Kenya. And I saw the whole thing happen. I saw people fleeing in the streets. I saw people getting shot at. I saw my father getting shot and falling onto the ground and lying in his own pool of blood, and we still have to flee to save ourselves and save him. He's still alive right now, thank God. Yes, he's still alive, going on strong. But when I think back to Congo, and this war happened for 2 weeks that we were away, and it was atrocious. We went to live in a refugee camp in our own country where we had to hide and we didn't eat, and we had to keep getting displaced from refugee camp to refugee camp and trying to save our lives, not knowing if we're gonna make it tomorrow. And I was around 7 at the time. And we were there for 2 weeks, and then the war ended, and we had to walk back home, where we walked for, I think, 2 days. And when we got home and my mom said we were away for 2 weeks, I was like, no, that felt like 2 years. Like, that was 2 weeks. So, and then a year after we left to Kenya, or like 2 years after. And I think when I think back to Congo, I remember a little bit of the good times when we speak with my family, but the main things I remember is these wars, and they ended and they kept happening again, and you just never know when it's gonna break out. So that's the tragic part that I remember. It made me stronger to kind of know how to live life and navigate through life, but also I think it scarred my brain for a long time, that I felt like I had to keep being on the move because I was used to fleeing. So when I got to Denmark, I didn't settle until like 4 years after, because I thought I was gonna go to the next place. It's in my head. I have to keep moving. Yeah.
During the period that you were there
Yeah.
in Congo, did you lost your friends?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, because when the war breaks out, it's man for themselves. I'm very blessed that I didn't lose my siblings or my parents. It's a wonder. It's just the mercies of God. Not to say that God is not merciful to those who got lost. I just count myself blessed because I remember I remember hearing children calling out for their moms in the night, and mothers and fathers calling out for their children, and vice versa in the night. And I always try to hear if somebody's gonna answer, you know. And those are just random people I don't know, or maybe I know them because we're inside, we're not getting out. But when we came back, things were not the same. And some of our friends never came back to school, for example. And I know a neighbor who got shot and died. So you just hear that they left and they're not there anymore. And you're happy that you're still here. And yeah, so yes, I did lose friends in the war. And also moving from Congo to Kenya, I lost all of them. And I can't quite remember my friends, but a magic happened. Last year I went to Belgium for a festival, and I met somebody that I went to school with, and I was in 4th grade with her. It was just amazing. And yeah, so yeah.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
You were saying that your life is being on move.
Yeah.
How it is putting yourself, not just you are putting yourself, but how it is living on the move. You were
Yeah.
in Congo and you went to Kenya. We're going to talk about the life in Kenya.
Yeah.
And now, you know, all these places that you went through.
Yeah.
How is life on the move?
It's not fun. Yeah, it's life on the move is. I would wish that I never moved at all, because I'm very grounded, very grounded. I can live in one corner for 100 years and I will be fine, because I don't like the moving. But beyond that, it means readjusting every time you move. You have to integrate, you have to make new friends, you have to start a new life, and you have to forget about your old life because it doesn't serve you anymore. It might serve you, but you can't live in 2 places in one time. So the physical is okay, you can handle that because you just have to grab your bags, get a new place. But the mental and the emotional is really, really hard, because most of my family still lives in Africa and in Congo. And they're my cousins and my aunties, and we're around the same age. So the people that know me and I know them, I haven't seen in almost 20 years. No one waits for no one. Life has to keep moving. So on the mental and the emotional part, it's really hard, because that's just like when you cope with it. But when it affects you as a sickness, which I thought I realized that I had, is because I wasn't here even when I got to Denmark. Not because somebody said I had to go to somewhere else, but I was just used to, I'm going to be here for just a short while and maybe I might keep going. My brain was set up like that. And then that made me so sad for a long time, because I kept expecting for things to happen. I don't know what. And then I realized, wait, I think it's already set up in my mind that I have to keep moving, but I don't plan on moving from here. So I might as well just land. And then I landed. But even when you land, it's Denmark. There's a lot of laws and stuff which you probably even wish you were going to another place sometimes. So yeah, on the mental it's really hard, but physically you can adjust. Physically I'm okay, as long as it's comfortable where I'm living and I have a bed, I have a couch, I have an apartment, that's okay. But mentally it's really rough. Yeah.
Before we come to Denmark,
Yeah.
you left Congo to Kenya.
Yeah.
Tell us about life in Kenya, or how did you manage to move, escape from Congo to Kenya?
Okay. I'm laughing because it's a funny story. So my dad got a chance to get to Kenya before us, and he left us in Congo because he had to find a way out. And he left, and a few months after we followed him. But the situation was not the best. Like, we just didn't get air tickets and flew to Kenya. We used the buses from Kenya to, from Congo, through Rwanda, through Uganda, and finally through Kenya. Yeah. The journey was wild because, Rwanda is full of hills, and we were on a bus. It was my first time on a long ride on a bus, and I threw up the whole time. That we all did. It was crazy. We were not prepared. Nobody warned us that it was going to be that bad. And it was just us and my mom. And we got to Kenya, and my dad had hustled himself a place, because life in Kenya is really hard. It's really tough, especially in Nairobi. I think if you live a bit outside of the big cities, it's maybe easier. But then, yeah, I don't know. So my dad lived in Nairobi in a small little place. And I remember when we got there and we arrived, so we finally arrived with the last bus, and he came to pick us, and then we took a taxi to where he lived. And I was so disappointed. I was only 10 years old, and I remember getting into the house. It was such a little house, and we were many. I have 7 siblings.
Okay.
Yes, so we were all of us, and I kept wishing we were going to go to the real house the next day, because I was just like, we're coming from a really good place, and I don't want to live here. But I had to. It was a shock. It was a very big shock. I started getting shocked from when I was 10 years old. Life has been rough. And there we had to speak English in Kenya, and we had to go to school, but clearly my dad didn't have a job good enough to take us to school. And right now, public primary school education is free, but at the time we arrived, it wasn't. And we couldn't speak. There's a Swahili spoken in Kenya, which is different from the Swahili spoken in Congo, which meant that we couldn't communicate with the other kids. So me being shy and very introverted, I didn't try until I had perfected my Swahili so I can go out and play. But I remember my little brother, I remember hearing him playing with the kids outside, and he would say some things and they would just laugh at him, and I would feel so bad for him. But I guess he was okay, because he was okay with it. And I remember just teaching myself my dad had a French-English dictionary with pictures, and I just kept reading that dictionary the whole time. And so we had to go to school at some point, and that's when we arrived, we had to register ourselves with the UNHCR because we are refugees and we need some sort of identification living in Kenya. And the trips to the UN offices to go and get an appointment so that you can get your story heard in an interview. We must have done it, I think, for 2 years without getting lucky. And it's always so full of people. You get there, it's all sorts of refugees from all around the world. And you spend the whole day there just waiting. Maybe somebody might come and talk to you, and nobody comes, and then they close, so you have to go back home. And we are like 10 people. And you have to pay for transportation to get there. When we don't even have money for food, how do we get there? It was just so rough. But things got better. My mom knew these nuns who were sponsoring refugee kids, and they had an organization. They were called Little Sisters of St. Francis, I think, where they were offering a college education to young ladies, and they could pay a certain amount of your school fees money, and in return, the parents have to go work in their fields, and then they get a little food to come back home with. So we lived like that for a while, and we eventually got to go to a school, a public school in Kenya. It was so hard. It was because it's all English or Swahili, and we spoke French and Swahili, but from Congo. But then we were thrown into a school because we have to go to school,
Right.
and we have to perform. And surprisingly, though, I wasn't the last in class. I don't know
So
what the
easy
last
to pick
person.
up all the
Yes,
lessons.
yes.
But the Swahili in Congo is really completely different from Swahili spoken in.
Yes, quite. Yeah, yes. Well, we have a lot of good vocabularies that are spoken in the pure Swahili. It's called Swahili Sanifu. That's like clean. But then we have a lot of French and Lingala and all those things
Okay,
mixed.
okay.
Yeah. So you can't just speak the way you speak in Congo and Kenya. You have to twist it. You really have to change it. So I can speak both. But I love languages, so it wasn't really hard to catch, and I listened to a lot of music, and um, um, some of the teachers were kind enough to teach some of the lessons in Swahili for me, for my sake. I thought that was really, really kind of, like, science in Swahili. That's hard. And they would say that they're doing it for me. And I loved math, and I just found my way. Also, I was young. I was around 10, 11. So that was easy to get along and just understand. Yeah, we just had to get with the program, I guess. Yeah. And then we got a chance to go to a private school 3 years after. Yes, which was tough, but it was among the best things that ever happened to me, because it made me clear school in a good light, and I got to go to a really good high school. And from there is when I get to Denmark and how I got here. Then I arrived here, and I had other people, and we were put in an old high school in Stirring, the little town. But when I arrived here, so I used to be encouraged to become a translator. Those are the jobs that I thought I could get. So I remember we came from the airport here in Aalborg, and our translator, he's from Congo, he came and picked us. And I could speak French, English, I could speak all these languages, but then you just have to go with the law and the rules. And I asked him, that was the last energy I had before I lost it all. How did you get your job? And he just looked at me and he laughed. And I was like, that's it, God, I tried. From now on, I think I remember I couldn't feel anything when I arrived. When you ask me how I felt when I came here, I can't tell you, because I don't know. I could see the snow falling. It was in February of 2011. We still had snow. I don't know what happened to the snow. And I could see it falling. I've seen it in the movies. Yeah, it's nice, but it was cold and everything, but I can't quite remember feeling all those things until I think a few months after, and I could see the leaves and the plants and the flowers starting to come out. Somebody had to keep pointing those things out for me to notice, because I don't know where I was. I was lost. Then I said, okay, this is my moment to now starting to know my community and my Congolese people. I normally I don't go out and talk to people. My mom just kept us like that. We're always in the house. Now I had to do this by myself, getting social. And I tried, but that wasn't the best thing also for me, because people are different and you have to know people before you just open up and say things. And I didn't have that. And because I'm African, if you're African, we're doing this together, but people are different again.
Yeah.
So I had to learn that the hard way. But I was going to sports school. I got, finally, after a few months, they got me a place in the sports school, and I enjoyed that so much because I love languages. And A few months into my first grade of the sports school, I already learned everything because I didn't have anything to do. So I was just going home and reading the book, and I love languages again. So I was having so much fun. So I finished the curriculum and I asked the teacher, can I go to now Dansk 3-2 or something? It was like, no, you have to wait for a year because then you have to do it for 3 years. But I have learned it all. You can see that I have. And sometimes I would be in class and it would be like, do you want to go help the other students because they have a couple of questions? I am not the teacher. I am not here to do your job. Take me to the next level. And they kept saying no. And I had to push. And eventually he came one day with the best news ever. Said, you can go to the next level. And I was so happy. And there I did my thing so fast again. And I wanted to be moved to the other level. Oh my God. And I still tried and I did. So in 10 months, I was done with my Danish course. That was really good. I was happy about that. Yeah. And then I thought after that I was going to join university, but that's when now the trouble starts because they say, you need to have this subject. You need to have this subject. You do this subject. They're like, no, you should have had math as well. Why didn't nobody say this from the beginning? And I spent 3 years at HOF where I did an entire HOF. Then I enrolled in university and I got the place, but my depression was getting at its peak. And in 2015, I just lost it all. And I was now fully depressed. I was like, my mind, I think I lost my mind. And I lost my movement. I was like a vegetable. It was gone. I was just, I couldn't remember yesterday. I couldn't remember 3 years ago. I couldn't remember anything. And I couldn't think of forward. I think it's, like I was dead. I can say that. And I was so scared because I've never felt like that in my life. And the thing that kept me alive is my dream. I always dream of making other people's lives better who have been like me. So if I have to do that, I have to be active and alive. So I always try to get back to a place that can allow me to do that. And when I lost all these things, I had gone away from a lot of people that I knew. I had really secluded myself, and I can do that so well, but at this point it was detrimental to my own health. And then I was so anxious, I was so scared, I couldn't talk. Everything I said was always wrong. Everything I heard, I felt like it was attacking me. It wasn't me. I was a completely different person. And I was scared to tell my family because at this time, my family is in the States. And they know me, I'm always bubbly. I'm the one who just makes everybody laugh. And that's me. And I didn't want to lose that to them. So when they would call, I would try to act that. And they fell for it. A lot of people fell for it because I think I know how to hide it. But and then in school, I was doing language and international studies. As an African person, that's not the course I should have taken because it just triggered me all through. It has nothing to do with me yet. It's supposed to talk about the world and world tragedies, but it doesn't mention all these things that have happened to me. Yeah. And also, there's nothing about African studies. So literally, no one knows who I am and no one cares. And I had lost my speech. So I would just be angry, but I can't speak. I got triggered a lot, and so I lost some of the semesters. I had to take off, and I would come back and redo them. And I realized that I was at a place that I needed psychiatric help. But as soon as I thought about that, I also felt the fear because I thought if I can diagnose myself because I know myself, and I read about mental illnesses, I felt like I had them all because I could feel them all. Right. And I didn't want to be an experiment. when I thought about psychiatric help, I was like, no, they may just want to do a brain surgery on me. And if somebody's going to mess up my brain, it's going to be me. So I've always been an artist all my life. I draw, I write calligraphy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now let's go through
the art.
To the art. Yeah.
Okay.
Impressive to hear all this story. I would love to ask you many questions. And you talk well as well.
Oh, thank you.
You talk. Yeah.
Thanks.
So let's talk about art.
Yeah.
How it started.
Yeah. So I've always been an artist since I can remember. I remember I used to try drawing as a child. I have a big brother who's a really good artist. He just sketches from his head and he sketches really good things. And I always wanted to do things like him. And my dad, as I've told you, he's the ultimate artist. He can draw, he can paint, he can imitate, he can do a lot of good things. And all my other siblings are also artists. My little brother is an artist. My other brother makes upholstery, so chairs and stuff. My other sister is a tailor who made the dress. We're all artists in the house, and my mom is a teacher. It's only my mom who can't draw, but she can draw by telling stories. So, I enjoyed doing it, just trying to draw. And we had dessin, which is art and crafts in school in Congo, so we could always practice. And then in Kenya, when I went to high school, I took art in as a subject, but then I didn't like the class, so I canceled that and took French instead, and that was easier for me, free points because I could speak French. Anyway, then I came here, and for the first time I touched a brush and paint in 2011 when I came here, because I could afford to buy it. I felt like it was more affordable compared to back home, or maybe I had the funds. And I met a very good artist lady called Gerda in Stirring. She's very good, and she gave me some art materials and some books where I could train myself to paint realistically. She gave me canvases. A lot of people heard that I was an artist, but I wasn't so serious about it. And they would give me art materials, but I was going through all the things that I've told you I was going through, so I didn't really have time to do my art. So just here and there, and then I took a break and I forgot about it. And when I lost myself, I wasn't doing any art thing. So when I needed to come back, and I had zero in me, I remembered that I had a talent. And at this point, I felt like I was melting. Every time I tried to stand up, I was melting. And I wanted to bring myself up and build myself again. And so I said, I literally prayed to God, to my talent, if I can say that. I said, I know that you're in there somewhere. If you're still in there, just come out. I'm going to try practice you again. And hopefully you're going to save me. And so somebody had given me a canvas for my Christmas present, and they had paid for I could frame it when I was done. And they said, when you're done, just go to the store and they can frame it for you. So I had to put something on that canvas, and I wanted to draw as simple shapes as possible, because I wanted to rebuild myself from scratch. So things I can see and feel. And also I needed to put color back into my life. So I thought of like a coloring book, but on canvas instead. And also I wanted to draw images from things I can remember. So I wanted to revive my memory again. So I remember we had a guitar, and my brother used to teach me how to play the guitar. My dad had a binoculars and a radio. And there's a thing about music as well. I loved music, but at this point I wasn't even listening to music, which was very scary. So I painted a guitar. I Googled a picture of a guitar, but I wanted to make it as simple as I can. So I just drew it in my head. And I painted the different I divided it into sections. And I wanted to paint straight lines, but not using tape, because I wanted to also like tame myself. I didn't want to go into my brain at all for no reason, for anything, because if I went into my brain, it was bad in there. But I thought I wanted to paint and go there and just stick there so that I can just bring myself back. And then I painted the guitar. And when I looked at it, it was a lovely image, but I was still with so much anger and hatred inside of me. So I didn't really love it, but it was a pretty picture. So it was like a very weird relationship with it. And I put it out online, and people thought it was so nice. And my neighbors, when they came into my room, they thought it was so pretty. The way it made them feel made me feel so good, because that's what I was going for me, even if I wasn't there yet. And I thought, I have to keep going. And so I cut out my school. I started to paint. I stopped thinking of school. I focused on painting. Every time I would get my SU, I would buy a canvas and I would come home and paint. And it excited me so much. I didn't know how much it was healing me, but it was exciting me. And I kept doing it and I kept doing it. And more ideas kept coming into my head. And eventually I made way too many paintings for the place I was living, so I didn't have space.